ISIS is terrorism. I think everybody can agree. And what ISIS does in the name of Islam does not represent me. And I will never defend their actions because a cause does not justify a means. They have manipulated something so beautiful for their own political schemes. But ISIS are not the first major terrorists to emerge onto the world scene, because the war against Islam is nothing more than a war of political ideology. But a critical look at history can reveal so much about this evil mess. And since we're on the topic of terrorism, let us first define what terror is. If it is violence, fear, and intimidation placed upon a nation to achieve a political, religious, or social goal through aggravation, then aren't Western nations more guilty of these exact same allegations, considering the long list of offenses that have taken place in the name of liberation? And I'm no conspiracy theorist, but I'm still waiting for all the facts on Building 7, because 9/11 opened the floodgates of hate for a crime that only a few committed. But if you ask me, the stage was already set long before Osama bin Laden, because there has always been the need for an enemy, otherwise the good guys wouldn't see any action. So I'm not surprised when these bigots try and offend me by drawing my prophet's image. These are a people who come from a history of intolerance, racism, and oppression. Our governments are not allowed to advertise tobacco because they say that it kills, but yet they defend the freedom to advertise hatred as though it is ideal, and they will do it in Jesus' name, as if Jesus would do the same. But didn't you say that Jesus said to turn the other cheek? Please stop playing these silly games, because terror is Christian fundamentalists bombing abortion clinics and white Christians burning black churches, even though they are from the same religion. But where are all the moderate Christian voices who will stand up and shout, "Not in my name," every time another deranged loner goes postal on his route? Cause it's okay for the KKK to still fully operate, and not just in the South. But I guess it makes sense when your founding fathers were racist slave owners. Check your past if you're in doubt, cause when ISIS burns people alive, the whole world should feel remorse. But when white Americans burned black people alive, they turned it into a national sport, gathering their kids together so they could laugh at the strange dangling fruit. The genocide of countless African Muslims, from servitude to human zoos. Yes, those were mainly Muslims you enslaved, and you even gave them Christian names. You stripped them of their history and taught them how to be ashamed. You say you're so scared of Sharia law, but you're a nation full of prisons, incarcerated your slaves once again to work for pennies, so you're chilling. And what's the point of a black man in a White House if he's still running by massa's rules? Cause if ISIS represents true terrorism, then what the hell does your history make you? And Canada, oh Canada, who could forget about you? Abducting Aboriginal children from their homes and forcing them inside your brainwashing schools. And now we have Thanksgiving Day, as though we should be giving thanks to you for Africville in Nova Scotia and the dead Chinese workers who built the railway that we still use. And the French have some audacity to claim that they are the champions of human rights after they turned 1.5 million humans into martyrs in Algeria overnight. People who decided that they didn't want to laugh at their master's jokes anymore, so they cut open pregnant women to see if she was to have a girl or a boy. How much does brown blood cost? What is the value of human life? when Bashar kills us by day and Israel kills us by night? Or shouldn't Palestinians be offered the same basic human rights? Or do Holocaust survivors call for the same Holocaust they had to fight? Terror is the 1948 exodus of men, women, and kids who were forced to leave their homes in Palestine to make way for Zionist terrorists armed with Western backative and fake UN resolutions, forcing us to wander in the desert like Pharaoh did to Musa. Cause when white people play Monopoly, they take it to a whole different level, trading nations like properties and carving up borders over dinner. Everything from the Spanish in the Philippines to the Dutch in Indonesia, from the Aborigines in Australia to the CIA installed dictators in Latin America, to the Portuguese in Brazil to the Italians in Ethiopia, from the Germans in Tanzania to the creation of Rhodesia. Stolen wealth and immoral trade is what helped make Britain so great. But why would God save the Queen when she's been spreading mischief since before 1858? Terror is the murder of Indians, to the orchestrated famine in Bengal, to the plantations in the Caribbean, stealing Africans right from their homes. Or for the Kenyan people, why don't we tell the world of British law like the tools they invented to crush and then rip your testicles off? Cause if we want to talk about terrorism, why not start with the torture chambers in Yemen or the occupation of Egypt, as if British rule in Iraq was some kind of heaven? Cause history can be amazing, but I guess it depends on who those books belong to. Cause it's easy to criticize other nations when most of their problems were placed there by you. The effects of colonialism are still ripe, cause even as I sit down to write, little girls continue to bleach their skin in hopes of one day looking white. You put us in your commonwealth, but amongst us wealth is not that common. You gave us loans to rebuild our lands, but from a cost we never wanted. They teach us to assimilate like freeing little monkeys from their cage. They think they're doing us a favor, becoming new slaves of minimum wage, cause these Western nations have blood on their hands of generations who've come to haunt, and they keep trying to whitewash their crimes with political bleach, but it still ain't coming off. And now they want us to go back to where we came from, like an adopted child they no longer want. But you're the ones who crept into our beds, molested us, and now you don't know what to do with us. Cause when Iraq was invaded in search of weapons of mass destruction, a power vacuum was created to fulfill Western oil consumption. But now look what you've created, another failed attempt at the white man's burden of colonizing nations. Imperialism used to civilize the savage, and you don't have to be racist to benefit from institutionalized racism. But I know and I get it, it's not your fault that you were born deprived of melanin, but facts are facts. And sadly, history does tend to repeat itself. Muslims didn't invent terrorism. In fact, we've been getting terrorized more than anybody else. But I think we can all agree that we just want to stop all the killing. But if TV has taught me anything, it's that there are no heroes without villains. It used to be the Germans and the Russians for a bit. The Japanese once had it bad, and black people have never really gotten over it. So I guess maybe it's just Islam's turn to be the enemy. But I don't want to be the enemy. It's hard enough just being me, a black African son of a refugee Muslim living in a culture that is extremely hostile towards me. But in the interest of the common good, we must play the cards that we are dealt. So I guess I'm taking this one for the team, cause Steven Seagal ain't gonna fight himself. So say goodnight to the bad guy. I know I will be missed, but it's the last time you ever gonna see a bad guy like